What does ET want to say to us about planet Earth? Are there ETs living on Earth who have been overseeing this planet for millions of years? The answer is yes. We're going to find out that and more with the fabulous Kevin Estrella today on the show. Stay tuned.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
G'day and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain, awakening and expanding consciousness on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio all over the place. We've got a couple of people tuning in. G'day. Hi, Alicia, we were just talking about you, darling one. She says howdy. And Shirley, howdy, hey, from Canada. We've got a fellow Canadian on the show, the fabulous Kevin Estrella. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thanks for having me, Karen.
We've got lots of things to talk about today. This is going to be good. Shirley says hi. So let me tell you a little bit about Kevin. We've just been chatting. He have a mutual friend, Sue Walker from the Ponte. We're going to find out all about it. I'll read you a bit of his bio. So Kevin Estrella is the host of Pyramids on Mars UFO Radio. I think you said you've been doing it for about 9 years. Did you say 9 years?
That's right, since 2016.
Yeah, amazing, which we'll talk about. And the guitarist and composer of the instrumental rock band Pyramids on Mars. His latest album, Cosmic Angels, is inspired by his visitations with extraterrestrials. On August 21st, 2014, Kevin had contact with an interdimensional craft of unearthly origin. Since then, Kevin began experiencing many other related incidences like incredible synchronicities, music downloads, symbol downloads through dreams, increased telepathy, and has been visited by many other extraterrestrial star nations and works with the Ponte Zetas. The Ponte are the Zetas that also Sue Walker works with, who reside within the Sandia Mountains in Albuquerque, New Mexico, who are helping prepare humanity for official first contact. Elements of his albums incorporate many things that have been taught to him by these otherworldly visitors, including but not limited to telepathic storytelling and tonal language of the cetaceans and whales. Wow, that's really interesting. His musical downloads are discussed in the UFO researcher Grant Cameron's book, Tuned In, which we've talked about on the show a couple of times. Grant was on the show recently. I love that book, The Paranormal World of Music. And I love the way that Grant found out about this. And many of Kevin's personal CE5 ET encounters are discussed in Inviting ET by Sue Walker, which is, Sue Walker's book. He's been a guest on over 90 radio talk shows describing his UFO ongoing extraterrestrial experiences. You've been busy, honey one.
Yes, I have.
Tell me about your radio show, that because it's not a podcast show like mine. It's like a network like this one, right? But it's it's music. People can tune in.
No, it's a show that's dedicated to interviewing experiencers.
Oh, okay. Because I went on there earlier and I clicked for streaming and music was playing.
Oh, that's just the main radio show. But if you go to the middle, you'll see pyramids. It says Pyramids of Mars. You'll see my picture. If you click on that, it'll take you to my archive page, and then if you scroll down from there, you'll see all the people who I've interviewed.
Oh, okay, cool. And so now you're the one being interviewed, and you had Lightstar on last week. Was it last week?
That's right. Yeah, last week. Yep.
Yeah, Lightstar's gorgeous. I had her on the show years ago. Because I've got a newer audience, on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, We're getting lots of love from Canada. A few people from Canada. Hello from Canada. Hello.
Hi, Angela.
Oh, Angela's one of your friends.
Yes, she is.
Pyramids on Mars rocks, she says. Whoa, pyramids on Mars rocks. I'll have to tune in. So what have you learned? Well, no, let's not go to that. What am I trying to do? Let's start with your story. Let's get into how you started noticing that you had contact with the Star Nation people.
Well, it kind of all started from kind of like my music, basically. I reserved the name Pyramids on Mars from an album from a drummer, Nigel. Or sorry, I can't remember his name. Anyway, it was the name of a song he had on his album. I reserved that for my independent solo project, Pyramids on Mars, which is what I do. I've been starting doing that since 2011. I wanted to use my music as a catalyst to help raise the awareness of the ET presence. So that's why I chose the image of pyramids on Mars, because there are pyramids on Mars, in addition to lots of other ruins and anomalies on that planet, and also throughout our solar system. So to fast forward a little bit more, it would happen to take us to the year 2014. And then it was August 21st, 2014. I had just put my kids to bed. It was 10:30 at night. I went out onto my deck and, well, actually, kind of just to back up a little bit, I've been studying extraterrestrials since I was, 19, since I was in university. And I started at that point reading a lot of Bud Hopkins books. And then when the internet finally kicked in, I was binge watching videos on Richard Hoagland talking about the anomalies on Mars and on the moon. And then I was just spent a lot of time researching extraterrestrials. My friends and my friends' kids, they all called me the alien guy. I was known for that. I was like obsessed, and I really felt very strongly, even in the year 2000, I felt like my purpose on life was to raise consciousness of the extraterrestrial presence. I went into my backyard and I just looked up in the stars, and I just was talking to whoever ETs were up there, saying, "I'm here to help. I want to help. I feel like this is my purpose." Little did I know that was actually, I was awakening into my realizing. I didn't know what a starseed was, but that was my starseed awakening really at that point. But I would have to wait 14 years for things to happen, for my activation to take place. So then it takes us to the year of 2014, August 21st, and I go out into my backyard, and within 5 to 7 seconds after stepping onto my deck, there appears from the left-hand side, my neighbors, they have a tree, and then right coming from behind this tree was this object that was about 100 yards away. And it came out from behind the tree, and it was glowing red like coals. And at first I thought maybe it was a meteor that was coming into the Earth's atmosphere, because it had this mist that was coming off the top of it and along the bottom of it, like smoke or mist. I didn't know what I was looking at. And then I realized this isn't a meteor. This is like flying over the subdivision. What the heck is this thing? And it was going across my backyard, just like the speed of a helicopter, just like this, going like this, with this mist coming off the top of it and along the bottom of it. It was a disc. It was a perfect disc, like a flying saucer, basically. And I was staring at it, and I didn't know what I was looking at. I had never seen a UFO before in my life. I've seen lots on TV and lots in YouTube videos, but I've never seen anything like this. It defied laws of physics, because the other thing about it was that it was two-dimensional. So it had height and width, but it had no depth. It looked like a piece of paper, flat. There was like no depth to it at all. And that's what was freaking me out. It's like, what the heck am I looking at? But it was orangish red. It had like this, different parts would glow like coals, another part would, go like this. And then it as it moved across my backyard, then it turned south towards Binbrook. And then as it was moving away, then all of a sudden it had no light source whatsoever. and the object was it was black, but it was more oblong. It looked like a football, kind of like a football from the back. And it was kind of making this swirling vortex was kind of forming in the front of it. It would be about 6 months later that I would realize that what I was looking at was a plasma stream. So this object
Ah,
creates a plasma stream all around it. So after this object disappears, I am completely freaked out. I didn't know what I looked like that, and I think I realized I think I just saw a UFO. And so then
mm,
I filled out a report to MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, which is they do all the UFO research here in Canada, United States. And but it would take probably it would take almost a year before I would find out what was going on. And then all these synchronicities started to take place. So it was now it was the summer of 2015, and there was an announcement in the Hamilton Spectator about this UFO conference, first UFO conference in Ontario, taking place in Brantford. And they had a 2-page article on it, and they had written articles about who was presenting. And I saw that Paul Hellyer, the former Defense Minister of Canada, was going to be there. Stanton Friedman was presenting. I knew him. And then I saw UFO Researcher of the Year award-winning Grant Cameron is talking about extraterrestrials and musicians, and why musicians are being contacted by extraterrestrials to raise the presence, the conscious presence of the ET phenomena. And when
yeah.
I read that, I went, "Oh my God, this is about me! Like, this is crazy!" Because I had already released my first album, Pyramids on Mars, and I was already writing music for the purpose of this. And then I had this UFO flying over my house a year ago, and I was just like, I was like, this is nuts. And I felt like my life was a movie. Like, this doesn't seem even real anymore. Now my life feels like a movie, and I'm being called to go meet Grant Cameron because there was information that he knew that was going to be beneficial to me to help understand what's going on. And so I drive to Brantford, and I felt like, like one of Jesus' disciples, in the sense of like, this doesn't feel real. I'm being called to go see Grant because something is bigger than me is happening, and I'm kind of part of it. And so I get there, and I caught him just before his presentation, and I hand him my CD. He looks at my CD, looks up at me, and says, "We got to talk." And I'm like, "Yeah, we do." And then he starts giving a presentation talking about how many musicians have been contacted by extraterrestrials, and the list is endless. I mean, we're talking about John Lennon, Elvis, all the members of Yes, the Moody Blues, um, uh, um, the uh,
John Denver, everyone, like Led
everybody, pretty much.
Zeppelin,
Yeah,
everyone. It's
David
incredible.
Bowie, David Bowie,
David
um,
Bowie, yeah.
Al Jurgensen from Ministry talked about chasing, Greys out of his bedroom. Um,
Doobie Brothers.
yeah, it's just the endless. Even Britney Spears, she saw a UFO too. And so, and then he started talking about songs, and how these musicians are getting songs like downloads, and some of these amazing hits were written in one take that came in dreams of songs. And then I realized, like, I had experienced that. And with one of my songs on my second CD, that song called Dream Division, where I never even wrote the song, I heard it in a dream. And that whole story is the one that ended up in his book, Tuned In: The Paranormal World of Music, about how this song, and I go into detail about how I, saw a video of Joe Satriani, this guitar player, being interviewed on MTV, sitting in the studio, and they're asking him, "You got any new music there? I hear you're working on some new songs." He says, "Oh yeah." And he starts pulling up these tracks, and this starts playing this song, and I'm listening to it thinking, this is really cool. And I realized, wait a second, he never wrote this song. And so I wake up, I go down, and I start tracking out what I heard, what I remembered, for the song. I start tracking out in the studio, and there was the song. I didn't write it. It was like, here you go, here's a free one. So it's like, where did this come from? This is just nuts. So, yeah. And then when that at that UFO conference next door, MUFON, where they had a booth set up, and I walked in, and there was um, um, uh, Stu Bundy, the MUFON researcher who took my report, and he had his back turned, and I had drawn pictures of the UFO that I had seen, and so because I didn't have a camera at the time, and I just dropped the pictures on the table. He turned around, he looked at me, looked down at the pictures, looked up at me and went, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. We're doing a presentation on you tomorrow." I'm like, "What?" And he said, "We're doing a presentation on you tomorrow. Tell us again about your UFO, what you saw." And I described it again, about the mist coming off there, and then the turning away, and then it was just a black thing. And he says, "Yep, there. That's why we knew that you were looking at an actual physical object. What you were seeing was a plasma stream," because I didn't know what it was. And he told me what it was. He said, "That's a plasma stream. You can only see a plasma stream from certain angles, and then if the object turns, that disappears. So we know that you were looking at a physical object." And that was one of the closest encounters that reports that we've had. And so,
hang on, what's the okay? So physical object, plasma stream. What's the difference? Because I mean, we, physical is still energy, because everything is energy, right? And plasma is energy. Yes. So are they saying that the object that you were looking at is energy in a different dimension? Like, what are they saying about the plasma stream as opposed to?
What they were saying was that, like, because my friend, he did an experiment. I was at his place when he did this, where he created this object. It was triangle made with popsicle sticks, and then it had aluminum foil along the bottom of it. And he had an old computer monitor as a power source. And then when he turned this thing on, this thing levitated, and it just floated there. But it, from the top portion to the bottom portion, where it was just toothpicks, created this blue plasma stream that connected with the aluminum foil. So you could see the plasma stream from one angle, but if you turned your head and looked another way, that there was no, it just veered off. There was no, you couldn't see the plasma stream. You could only see it from face up. From the side angle, you can't see it. So but getting back, what I saw was a physical object that was illuminated by creating a plasma stream around it, which is what the light that we saw. Okay,
so the plasma stream is sort of part of the propulsion of the craft. Is that what you're saying?
I think may not necessarily be propulsion, but it's just something that creates it just illuminates a light, so the object is visible, so you can see it.
Okay, gotcha.
Now the other thing that was interesting about when I saw this thing, and I didn't realize this until like 10 years later, when somebody was being interviewed, they asked me a question saying, "What did it sound like?" And then I was thinking about that moment, and I realized that when that craft came into view, it was like everything went into a vacuum. Just went. It was like being in a silent room. Like normally you can hear air, you can hear birds chirping, you can hear insects. It was like a vacuum. There was no sound at all. And then when it turned and then it started moving away, then the sounds slowly started to come back. So I really didn't know what was. Hang on one second. I'm doing a radio interview. What?
He's busy. He's live on radio.
Is that mine? No, it's mine. Oh, it's yours. Okay. Oh, okay. Go ahead, take it. Okay, sure.
Live radio.
Of all times.
I didn't realize you were sitting next to a door. Shirley says, "Love this. Great title for an album." Shirley says, "It is a great title." Yeah. Surfing with the aliens. So where were we? Plasma stream. So they asked you to come and talk about it, or they just presented your work?
They just presented my work at the UFO conference. They put the pictures that I had drawn. They threw that into their presentation as well. They're just saying it's one of the most authentic UFO sightings that they've had because of the evidence and the way I saw it, and they were able to track and see if there was any other anomalies going on that night, in which there were not. And so then the next day I ran into Grant, and I because he wanted to get together with me, and he said, "Yeah, I was at their presentation. I saw your presentation or what they were doing on you, and yeah, we'll talk about it." And so then when we got together and we sat down for coffee, I told him the whole thing again. And I said, what's freaking me out is that Stu Bundy from MUFON, he told me that nobody else, they had no other reports of that UFO from that night. And I couldn't believe that, because it was flying over a subdivision. It's one of the busiest streets. Like Upper James is one of the busiest streets in Hamilton. Like there must have been dozens of people who must have seen this thing. How could nobody have seen it? Because nobody else reported it. And the other verification that I got that nobody else saw it was that I had my first UFO radio interview right after that weekend it was the Rob McConnell on the X Zone, and he's actually from Hamilton, and he after that radio show they did some research, and they basically were looking, to see anybody else reported seeing a UFO that night in Hamilton. And they contacted the airport, they contacted, the military, and there was no reports at all. And so they messaged me the next day saying, due to the lack of evidence of a UFO sighting, we think you're a fraud and don't ever contact us again. And I was kind of surprised at that. But then I was thinking about it afterwards, and I was actually kind of glad that they did that they actually did research it to find out that really seems to be that there really was nobody else who's had contact with that craft. And that is what Grant Cameron verified with me, because when I told him that, they said nobody's seen it. He says, like, that happens all the time. And I'm like, what do you mean it happens all the time? And he says, yeah, it's called the Oz effect. It's where they're able to shut down people to have contact with the people who they want to have contact with. And that's how they do it. And that's why I think that that anomaly happened where the sound disappeared when the craft appeared. So they may have put me in some kind of time bubble or some kind of time displacement for that minute of time that it appeared. That's the only thing that I could think of.
Let me ask you, you saw it with your physical eyes and you felt this sort of strange time bubble. Did you get any communication? Did you have any strange thoughts? I mean, at the time, did you understand that you can connect with them telepathically? Did they communicate anything to you that you know of? At
that moment, as far as I consciously know, no. I was just completely in awe, like a deer in headlights, just going.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what I was looking at. I really didn't. And I was just trying to take it all in. In fact, I was upset for the next 2 weeks. I was just completely freaked out because I wanted to have a UFO experience all my life. Then it finally happened. And then I'm wrapping my head around these physics that were unexplainable.
Right. So, well, it's interesting. It's like Shirley says here, like the propulsion ray, no one saw it because it was sideways. You saw it because of the frequencies aligned far out. Wow. Oh, wow. They dismissed you. Yeah, she's just commenting on things that you said. The Oz effect. Yeah, I think that, I don't know what he means by the Oz effect, but I think that, when contact is going to be made, like there's been many stories of people looking up and maybe there's a crowd of a dozen people and 6 of them will see it or 3 of them will see it and 7 people won't see it. So it's, like Shirley says, you're aligning frequency. They're saying that when I asked you the question, did they send you information? They said, absolutely, they sent you information. And you were so in the wow that you couldn't hear that information. But just like it said in your bio, at that time and many other times besides, you were being downloaded with information that came out later, came out in your music, came out in your thoughts, in your dreams. But you were being downloaded. But you could have had somebody that wasn't in the same state as you that could look up and see nothing. And you're seeing it as clear as day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The same thing happened to my son, actually, because I took him downtown Hamilton to out for dinner to A&W, and we were driving down the middle of the main road, Main Street, and the two tallest skyscrapers, one's the CIBC building, and then he starts talking to me, asking me, "Dad, how far is NASA from here?" I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, "I just saw a ship hovering between these 2 buildings." And I'm like,
Cool.
what are you talking about? And he was really excited, and I didn't know what he was describing. And so then when we get back to my place, he drew a picture of it, and he drew the building, and he drew another building, and then he drew this half moon craft, and then he colored it orange, and then it had this beam that was going across it, in a certain direction. And I was just like, "You saw this?" And he said, "Yeah." And so the next
Cool.
day, I got confirmation from the Ponte. They said, "You're welcome, Logan." It was the Ponte who did that, and they were in their craft. They flew. They were just about 25 feet above the skyscraper in the middle of downtown, and nobody else saw it. That would have been the news of the century. People would have been taking photos of it, like, this craft is hovering 25 feet in the middle of downtown. Nobody else saw it except for
Wow.
Logan.
How old was he at the time that he saw it?
Like 15.
15.
Yeah.
And what sort of effect had you discussed your experiences with him at that stage?
Oh, I've talked about my experiences with all my kids.
Yeah. And are
Yeah.
they like, "Yeah, cool, Dad," or are they like, "You're crazy"?
No,
Like,
no,
where are they?
no, they're very aware. Um, and I know that Rachel, my daughter, has been visited, but she probably doesn't remember all of it. But
Mhm.
the cool thing with Rachel was that she one of the Ponte, his name is Radar, and he plays guitar. And Rachel gifted her little acoustic guitar to Radar, and Radar was so
Oh,
taken back by this, and so were all the girls at the Sandia station, that the word got back to their planet about this little 5-year-old girl who was gifting her guitar to Radar, and that was a first for a human being to do that. So I even have a letter that Rachel wrote to Radar saying, "Please, I'm gifting you my guitar, and maybe if you can, bring me a gift from your planet, we can do an exchange." And so I framed that. I have it. It's right behind me in the room, just over here. This beautiful letter that she wrote when she was 5 years old to Radar. Um, but that was a significant gesture that had never occurred before for the Ponte.
oh, how many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Oh,
Yeah,
3.
yeah.
Yeah, this is, so we'll get into the Ponte. Did you know about the Ponte before you found Sue Walker's work?
No, well, no, I found the Ponte first,
You found the
and
Ponte first.
yeah,
Okay.
and that was through my friend in Australia who we had talked about earlier, who I'll just call by the name of the nickname Wookie.
Oh, okay.
He
So he's not out of the ET closet yet, is he? Um, your friend in
ET,
Australia.
he just doesn't go public about it, but he's the one who introduced me to the Ponte first. And so
Okay.
then I started following the Ponte on Twitter, and just, I was, yeah, at that point it was only 4 who were on there. It was Tilcom, Commander Tilcom, Drudy, who's public relations, Tani, who is she wrote the telepathy primer, which people can download if they want to learn
Mhm,
telepathy. It's a free
mhm.
book. Go to
Yep.
officialfirstcontact.com. Download the telepathy primer. Practice half an hour each day for 100 days, and you will have contact. So there you go. But
Yeah, yeah. So your friend in Australia, so Kevin was telling me before we went live that he came out to see. He said, "I've been down under. I've been to Queensland. I went to see a friend who was part of the SSP, the Secret Space Program." And I was saying, I didn't know that Australians were a part of it, but I suppose it's global. They're not just picking people from the States or Canada or they're taking people from all over the world, aren't they? The the Secret Space Program.
I
Uh,
suppose, yeah, I don't really know too much about the secret space program. I mean, I have friends who were part of it, but it's not down a road that I normally go down to, that I follow very closely. So yeah.
but so he knew about the Ponte. Did he find the Ponte through Sue? Sue was the first person that I found out about the
Oh,
Ponte, or did he have contact with them and then found Sue, who had contact with them?
I I honestly can't remember, because he's had contact with other extraterrestrials before the Ponti, who he referred to as the little frogs, who these two extraterrestrials who lived with this guy in his house, but they were communicating through his computer, and my friend had contact and was in contact with them. But talking to them, once again, as I explained to you, it's very difficult sometimes talking to them because time is not the same for them. Because they were talking about me, describing me to him before he had even met me. So, like, past, present, future is all kind of mixed up for them. So that was another fascinating thing about it.
You know what it is for me too? I have totally lost track of linear time. When I think about something that happened yesterday, it could feel like 10 years ago. Or I can think about something that happened 10 years ago. It feels like yesterday. It's kind of weird. I think that as we expand our psychic abilities, time, we're not so tuned into linear time. But so tell people about who the Ponti are, and
Sure,
we'll get into that.
Yeah. So the Ponti are they're from the Zeta Reticuli constellation, the furthest of the two binary stars. Their planet is called Pontel. It's a fifth planet orbiting that planet, and they've been here for a long time. But for the last 2 decades, they have been here preparing humanity for official first contact. And a couple things about them. No, they are not clones. They are not hive mind. No, they speak telepathically, but they're all individuals. And actually, genetically, they're as genetically diverse as we are as humans. They all look different. They all have different looks. They all have different personalities. They have different specialties of expertise. So, Drudy behind me here, her expertise is she is an expert in the tonal language of the cetaceans and the whales. So she's an expert with that. Drudy below here is public relations. She knows all the different star nations who come visit the Sandia Mountains. The Sandia Mountains, that's where their information station is, where their base is. It's under the Sandia Mountain in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's not part of the Sandia military base. That's completely separate. This is an ancient site 2 miles below the actual mountain that was inhabited by an ancient civilization that used to live there about 60,000 years ago. There's a huge underground city there that housed about 1 million people. The Ponti have refurbished only about 15% of that place for their own needs. So that's where they reside. It's one of 3 or 4 main information stations on the planet.
Yeah, but they've got others.
Yeah, and then you can see here. This is I work for Tilcom. This is Commander Tilcom. He runs the information station, and yes, I do work for Tilcom. That's why I have that up there. I work, I work pretty much, for the Ponti. I mean, I work for the Galactic Federation, over that, but the Ponti I'm very, very close to, and I've followed them for the last, since 2016. I've been on their Twitter page since 2016. I've never missed it, so I know a lot about all the information that they have been sharing for the last 9 years of who they are as people and why they're here, and trying to prepare us for official first contact. And also the things that they teach about their culture and who they are as people. It's absolutely fascinating. It really is. They have a celebration. They have a celebration each year where they go into isolation for 3 days, and they just basically they meditate and give gratitude for everything that they have in their lives, and they focus on that and just have gratitude for everything they can think of. And then after those 3 days, there's a big celebration, which includes lots of food and dancing and stuff like that. So the Ponti, they love to dance. They love music.
So as far as greys or zetas, are they sort of more human-like than many of the other greys in their individuality, their personality, their looks, even their eating habits? I remember when I had Sue on the show, they were talking about what they eat. I asked them if they were vegetarians.
They're
And
pescatarian.
she said, no, they eat fish. And I said, why do they eat fish? This was something that was really interesting. They said fish were created as a food source, not just on this planet, on many planets. And so there is a contractual agreement that they would be a food source, but with many other animals, even though we eat them, there really isn't a contractual agreement that they're a food source. And I went, whoa, really? That's really interesting. Yeah. So they're more human than most of what we hear about in ufology of the Greys, especially when people are talking about the little android dudes.
Yeah, there's at least 7 different Zeta types who are visiting Earth. There's only a few that are malevolent, who are serving to self, but there's also a group here that were created here on Earth who are more like robots, and Tilcum gets very upset about them, and he says they are the aliens. He refers to them as the aliens because they give the Ponte a really bad name.
Yeah,
they do. They're the ones who do a lot of military abductions and harm. So you have to be careful about which group is of Zetas we're talking about.
So what's your contact? When did you know that you were telepathically connected to them, or and you say that you work for Tilcum? Was it Tilcum that you work for? Which one?
Yes. Yes.
I'm asking a million questions at once. Okay, so what was your contact, and then we'll get into what you do for Tilcum.
Sure. I first started interacting with the Ponte in 2016, and then I started doing direct messages on Twitter, talking to Tani and to Radar and to Judy, directly. And then Tani said she wanted to eventually introduce me to their telepath here on Earth, Sue Walker. I had no idea that Sue was actually doing all the typing while this was happening. She's doing all the typing, but she's staying in the background because she hadn't been introduced yet. And so then eventually we set up a phone call, and then I talked to Sue, and we just hit it off immediately. And our relationship grew very, very quickly and very, very fast. I'm very, very close with Sue and Otter, and I visit them quite regularly. But the Ponte have really become part of my life. They really are a part of my life, literally. Yeah. They visit here all the time, every week, at least a couple times a week. I don't know how they do it, but they can just drop in whenever they want.
So when you say they visit you, they're not standing in front of you physically and you're like high-fiving them.
No.
Why aren't they doing that?
There's a lot of theories behind that. I know that they have been here physically, but I think they can also just get here interdimensionally, because one thing they love to do is, like, I play a lot of video games, and so I'm playing on my PS4, and there's a lot of different games that I know they like, and they'll just bump the back of the coach while I'm playing a game, or a certain point in the game where it gets really scary, they'll bump the back of the coach, or they'll just give a little nudge to let me know that they're there. And sometimes they won't do anything, and I'll just feel the presence and I'll know that they're there. I'm getting better at that. But they love just to drop in and just to hang out. They just love to hang out. They've been doing this for years.
So when you say they visit you, they're visiting you in an astral form? Are they
something like that? Yeah, it's like something like an astral form.
Are they projecting their consciousness? And
I don't get so much. I have a hard time hearing them telepathically still, but I know that because Sue told me that sometimes I'm talking to them and I don't even realize I am. So they'll sometimes be asking me different questions about the game, and somehow I'm responding to them. So telepathy is really weird that way. So, but I mean, they've tapped the back of my shoulder sometimes while I'm playing. And then one time I was watching the original Battlestar Galactica movie, and there's a part where Apollo and Zach, who are the sons of Captain Adama, it's the beginning of near the beginning of the movie where the Cylons shoot and destroy Zach's ship and kill him. And when that happened, the Ponte kicked the back of the couch so hard in shock that I was just like, "Holy crap!" They weren't expecting that, and they were really upset. It's wild. But the other thing is that they also have chalked up my walls. You can't see behind me right now, but these walls are covered in chalk. Different like things that they've done. They've also actually drawn murals on my wall in chalk. Um, they've also left like petroglyphs or hieroglyphs in chalk on my walls. I didn't do this. They did this, and they continuously add to it. So my place is like Alice in Wonderland. Honestly, it's really awesome. The interactions that I have with them. But to get back to your question, the first time they visited me was 2017, and Sue told me they're getting a visit. You'll know that they've come if something's been moved and out of place. And so one morning I was sleeping, and I felt this presence. But I didn't know what it was. And then I felt warm liquid draining out of my left ear one morning, and I was like really shocked, like really annoyed, and rubbing my ear like this. It felt like warm water if you've gone swimming and there's water was
Yeah.
stuck in your ears. And then the next morning, I went to work that day, and then I was walking by my desk, and then I happened to notice a statue that I had on the wall. It was facing towards the wall instead of facing towards me. And I'm thinking, what the heck is going on here? Wait a second. I think the Ponte were here last night. And then I talked to my friend, Wookie, who, and he was telling me about how Rudy was waiting for him to go to sleep because there was something a procedure that they needed to do. And then all of a sudden I thought about, wait a sec, what happened with my ear with that, that night? I went up to my bed, and there on my pillow where my ear was resting was this orangish brown stain. And I told him about it. He said, "Oh yes, thank you for reminding me that whatever procedure they did, they put liquid in our bodies, and the last part that comes out would come out of our left ear." And what had happened is that over the next week, my body was starting to exfoliate all these heavy metals, and my urine smelled like ammonia. It was just gross. Like my body was exfoliating all this stuff. My consciousness was also changing. And then after 7 days, my consciousness completely opened up, and I was like activating parts of my brain that had been nullified or numbed because of all the metals and whatever you call it. What's that? Fluoride that they put in our food. My pineal gland was cleaned out. My mind was cleaned out, and I was able to activate parts of my mind I'd never had been able to before. And then I got a response from Sue saying, now the Ponte can hear you much better telepathically. So
Wow.
my telepathic projection was cleared. And then they repeated the process about a month later, and they said, oh, we can hear you really clear, loud and clear now. So they can hear me much better telepathically. They were clearing out, so I became a much better projector. That was one of the visits.
So they were clearing you out so they could hear you better.
Yes.
Can you hear them better? I mean, is it a
Still
two-way
working
street?
on that. Still working on that.
Still working on that.
Yeah, I heard the Ponte for the first time back in September. When I visited Sue last year, I made a request. She and I sat out in the backyard, and I had a 45-minute talk with Commander Tilcom and Tani. And I said, through Sue, yeah.
Through Sue.
And I said, I really need to get my level of telepathy, up to the same level as Sue's.
So and back in September 2024.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
And so Tani assigned me teachers, and they said between July and September, you'll be having teachers who will be teaching you, helping you with your telepathy. And they said at a certain point, you will start to hear your neighbors telepathically. Do not be alarmed. Do not be concerned. That's normal. And eventually you'll be able to differentiate our voices. And so what started to happen near the middle of August, in the middle of the night, when I'd be in the process of going back to sleep, I was practicing a lot more of learning how to clear my mind, because that's the only way you're going to hear telepathically is when you're able to quiet your mind to then be able to hear the thoughts and recognize the thoughts that are not yours. So I've been spending the last, since September to today, as much every night that I can, working on this to be able to quiet my mind to start to hear my neighbors telepathically. And I was hearing balls dropped. I was hearing curtains banging against my left ear because I don't have curtains in my room, but I'm hearing it through somebody else's ears. Or I would start to see images through other people's eyes and experience things through their eyes. And it was happening more and more in middle of August to September 4th. And then September 4th, I heard as clear as day Tani's voice saying, every morning and every evening, practice this. Heard her as clear as day. And then I got onto Twitter that morning and I say, I think, I heard, Judi Dench's voice, who everybody says that's what Tani sounds like. And she said this.
Judi Dench.
Yeah. And so I said, she said, every morning, every evening practices, was that Tani? And then one of the Ponte responded back saying, we were placing bets on you be coming on Twitter and telling us that you heard her voice. He says, yeah, that was her. Yeah.
This is
So
so cool.
and they said, oh yeah, we were placing bets, and one of your Las Estrellitas, which are the names of my fangirls for Pyramids of Mars, one of your fangirls won the bet. So it's like, no way. It's so cool.
Lisha, I've been ignoring the audience. Sorry, guys. I see that you're posting a lot of things. Lisha says here, and if you want to come on and meet Kevin, I've sent you on Facebook Messenger, I've sent you the link if you want to pop on. Don't think they are here much. No, what is that? What did you say? The first one? Oh, here we go. There's a whole lot of. Once I asked them to let me see them, I was lying on the couch late with my eyes closed. My eyes popped open and I saw one walk by into the direction of the kitchen. I'd love to know if you saw him. Well, your eyes popped open. What did he look like? Have you seen? Have you done something like that where you've seen through your outside eyes, your physical eyes?
Through my peripheral? Through my peripheral.
Through your peripheral, but not straight in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah, I have. That was actually when I was at Sue and Otter's place.
Okay.
That's when it happened. There was one time where Sue and I were talking, and then I was like, every once in a while, I was seeing something out of my peripheral vision on my left-hand side, and I would kind of look like that, but I didn't realize that Sue was seeing through her peripheral vision, and we were kind of looking at the same time like this. And it's like all of a sudden I stopped when we were talking. I said, "Is there somebody else here?" And then Otter piped up, "Radar's been here for 15 minutes." So it's like, and so that's why Sue and I kept turning our heads, like, because we got our peripheral vision, and we was like, radar was hanging out. So.
Oh, that's so interesting. So why don't they just show up physically? Okay, I'm going to rephrase that.
They have shown up
physically. In a way, I'm going to say that differently, because everything is energy, and what we perceive. I was chatting with the mob about this the other day. What we perceive as physical is just a quality of density of energy. So the question is, why don't they show up so that we can perceive them through our outside eyes, through our physical eyes as physical beings? And you say they have, but have they to you? I
have. I had one visit where it was physical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually created a little animated video on it. If you go to YouTube and find Close Encounters of the Ponte Kind, follow that. We've made about 6 or 8 videos, which are real life true stories of the Sandia wisdom, like the Twitter followers of Sandia, of the Ponte, of their real encounters with the Ponte. So one of the stories is called Green Screen, which is my story about PETA visiting me physically in my apartment. And basically, I fell asleep on my couch one night, and I was woken to the sound of 2 feet landing a few feet from me. So I hear this like that. And I realized that the Ponte were there, and they were allowing me to be awake while I was being visited. Now, I had my eyes closed, and I was really excited because I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually here. And so they walked over to me, and they put their arm under my leg, and then their other arm around the back of my neck, and then they gently picked me up off the couch.
Wow.
And they picked me up like I weighed nothing. I was like, there was no struggle whatsoever. It was almost like if I weighed like a paper clip, you know. And so I remember my left arm became wedged out, and it kind of slipped and fell. And I didn't realize it at the time, but he had paralyzed me, so I couldn't move at all. I didn't realize it though. And so my hand, when it kind of brushed across his arm, and I remember his bodysuit, it felt like dolphin skin. It felt cool to the touch and had like almost
Oh,
like dolphin skin feel to it. But I think it was just his bodysuit. And so, and then he released the paralysis, and then he put me down. And then I wake up, I open my eyes, and there, standing in front of me, is a Ponte. And I said, "Oh my gosh, are you Radar? I'm so glad. I'm so excited to see you." And then he leans in and he whispers, "It's Peter." And then all of a sudden, I recognized him because he's on the cover of Sue Walker's book, Inviting ET. And it's like, you look exactly like the portrait that Sue drew to a T. It's exactly what he looked like. And so then the next thing he did was he changed his appearance. And then all of a sudden it was just like, and his whole appearance, he then looked like a stormtrooper. But it wasn't just a stormtrooper, it was actually a stormtrooper Halloween costume that my kids had worn a few years prior. But he turned his body into looking like that. And then he changed his face. And his face is now all of a sudden, it was a friend that I hadn't seen since high school. But he didn't have him quite right because he had him bald up to here like my hair, but then he just had this kind of messy tuft of hair in the top, and it looked kind of funny. And then I just went to say, you look just like, I was going to say, my friend, his name, Drew Carmichael, actually. I said, you look just like, and then all of a sudden I'm opening my eyes and I'm back on the couch. And it was like there was this missing time that took place where somehow he was able to shut me off and put me back on the couch, and he had left. But this whole process of what he did was using these telepathic screening abilities, like if he was a green screen. That just blew my mind. So they do have this ability to be able to change their appearance to look like something else in our minds. And I've had this experience with not just him, but with other extraterrestrials, where I've had many visitations from extraterrestrials, here in this apartment, where they've appeared as somebody else. I mean, I had one who show up. She looked like Holly Berry, exactly like the actress Holly Berry, but I knew that that wasn't Holly Berry. I've also had another ET that showed up who looked like Alf. The
yeah.
80s sitcom. He
Yeah.
looked just like Alf.
Yeah.
And then I had another one who showed up who looked just like the movie Paul.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the extraterrestrial Paul, he showed up. So what I'm thinking they're doing is that they're using a telepathic screening, because telepathy is very deep. They're able to go into your memories and find things, something that would be more suitable for them, that they would feel more comfortable with, rather than me seeing actually what their real physical appearance is. Because I don't know if there's a real, UFO, or Star Nation series that looks like Alf or Paul or whatever. So I think they just may be using different telepathic screenings. So I don't see what they actually really look like.
Oh, I'm having big chats with them about all this, but rather than me answering my own questions, because when I ask a question, I get the answer telepathically from whoever's tuning in to the show at the time I'm interviewing people or talking to people. But I would prefer you to answer it. So why do you think that they do this? And for you, like, why do you think they don't show up more physically with more people? Why are they sort of staying hidden, do you think?
In regards to what their true appearances might be?
Yeah.
Well,
Penny says, can she connect as well? Hi, Kevin and Karen. Can I connect with the Ponte?
yeah. Download the telepathy primer at officialfirstcontact.com and practice your telepathy. If you have a friend who is also interested in that, do it together so you can get immediate feedback from each other. If you practice with a friend, it's really good. We used to have telepathy practice groups through the Ponte Twitter followers. So these different people would be, some people were in the United States, some people were in Europe, and we all got together on a Sunday afternoon around 3:00, and then each of us would take a turn holding an object and focusing our concentration on that object and then everybody else would then draw what they're seeing telepathically. And we were really surprised at what we were coming up with the objects, or seeing different portions of the objects that were being presented. It was a lot more. It was not, we weren't getting exactly it right, but we were getting a lot of different elements from the objects. So the practice was really good. So try doing an activity like that with some friends. But also, what I told you about the other thing, what they were teaching me that I've been working on since last year, is that when you go to sleep, and then or when you're in the process of going to sleep, allow your mind to just go calm and relax, and try and get your mind to be almost like a mirror pool, like a pool that's mirror with no thoughts, no ripples. Because then when you get to that point, then some images you'll start to see images, or you might hear something. And that's not your imagination. That's not your imagination playing with you. That's now that you are tuning into the unheard, unseen world of telepathy, because all our consciousness is connected. And then you'll start to see through people's eyes, or hear things and hear stuff. And the more and more you practice this, the more and more you're going to be able to differentiate your thoughts from other people's thoughts who you're picking up. And it started happening a lot more with me. And so it's getting stronger. And in the last month or so, I started doing this to the point where it's not necessarily, because I've heard voices telepathically as clear as day as how you're hearing my voice.
Yeah.
I've had that experience many times. But now I'm also getting to the point where I'm picking up people's thoughts. And I'm hearing people's thoughts in their voices, not my voice. So this is like a new level for me. And then it was only a few days ago where I heard a woman's voice, and she was saying something. And then I heard and I heard that sound before. I was visited by a mantis being about a year ago, and he did this clicking sound, and I was picking up on a mantis's thoughts.
Wow.
I heard him clicking.
Whoa. Oh gosh, this is so fascinating. I have to do a station ID break. Where are we? You're listening to Accentuate the Positive with Karen Swain and Awakening and Expanding Consciousness. And we are on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM. And my guest today is Kevin Estrella. And we've been talking about his contact with the Ponti, who are Zetas, who have multiple bases on Earth. One of the big ones, what do they call them? Information stations?
Information stations.
Is in the Sandia Mountains in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And like, why are they here? What do they want with us? And we've discussed that they... With Sue, actually, Sue Walker is the telepath who speaks to them mostly, but there are people all over the world, including Kevin, including Lisha, who's online, that actually have telepathic communication and physical. We've talked about how Kevin's had physical communication with them. But Sue, when I had Sue on the show, said that they have been here monitoring Earth for millions of years, long before humans were here, because they're just enamored with our oceans. They just think that our oceans are just so
it's all about the water. That's what they say.
Beautiful, yeah. And and I'm just such an ocean lover. I talk about the ocean like my mother. She's my mother. It's like I never can be too far from the ocean. I didn't want to go into the desert of Australia because it was too far from the ocean. It's like, I don't want to move that far away from the ocean. But I did. I went in there and I survived, of course. Actually, the desert energy is just as beautiful. Wow, Mantis, what does Shirley say here? There's lots of people saying lots of things. Wow, Mantis has been with me all through life. We need part 2 with Kevin. Oh, we do. I know. We'll get him back. 1.5 hours barely touches us. Absolutely. I know. Okay. So you said that you work for, which one was it?
Telcom.
Telcom. What do you mean by you work for him or with him? What are you doing for him?
Whenever I'm doing radio interviews, I spend a huge portion of my time talking about the Ponte and representing the Ponte, to talk about their teachings, who they are as people, to introduce them to the world.
Yeah.
So, because Tilcom had hoped by this time that they would have had over 1 million Twitter followers. Unfortunately, that
Okay.
has not happened, and they're really trying to get their presence known. So, that's why I do what I do. That's why I do as many radio interviews as I can to
Okay.
teach people about who the Ponte are, because they are trying to gap this, create this bridge between between us and their peoples. I'm so sick of these UFO researchers, and all they talk about are UFOs and getting their technology so we can fly it. You know what? We've had that technology for 50, 60 years, and we're not allowed to go out into space because we're barbarians.
Yeah, exactly.
And we
Exactly.
don't even, it makes me sick that the only thing we effing care about is what car they're driving. You ever think
Yeah.
about that there's actually people? No one cares about the actual people, and that's what I'm about. It's about these are people. These are people trying to reach out to us. Forget about what car they drive. They're people. God's sakes.
When I was
Who they are.
telepathically communicating with them and wanting you to answer, it's like, why do they not show up physically and blah, 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 blah. They were saying to me, because of who you are as humans, like when you said they did show up physically and then they picked you up, but they paralyzed you. See, every time, everything you're saying, I'm asking questions like, why did you paralyze them? Because I just can't stop asking questions. I'm not just asking them to you, I'm asking them to them. And they said, it's just a part of our protocol because you humans are so barbaric in that your fear response is violent. So when you get scared, you hit out, and so until your fear response, we can contain your fear response, then we paralyze you until we understand that your fear response, because they can monitor our emotional frequency.
Exactly.
And when they feel that you're not in your fear response and you won't hit out and strike them because we're such angry barbarian type we're such a warring race that they do all this stuff to protect us and to protect them. And
initially, but they also will paralyze. They will also paralyze so that we won't have a freak out moment, because I have had a lot of visitations with inside lucid dream states. And like, you can't see it right now, but above here, there's a portrait of a blue being. She's actually an Arcturian hybrid. Her name is Flaley, and she's Arcturian and she's Lyran. She has cat eyes, but she's got blue skin and an elongated head. She visited me in a lucid dream state, but she had paralyzed me at first so that I would not wake up, because she had waited around. Actually, I felt her presence when I was still conscious. Before I gone to sleep, I felt there was somebody, because she kind of like touched my arm, and I was like, "There's somebody here." And so she had to wait for me to go, asleep into that alpha theta state to meet with me there. And then once I was in this dream state, it was like being in my bedroom. The dream was like being in my bedroom, and someone was crawling under my bed sheets, and she had paralyzed me so that I wouldn't freak out. And then she pops out from under the bed sheets like, surprise, it's me. And it was her. And it was just like, oh my God. So obviously, somehow we've met before, because who does that? It's like, surprise, it's me. It's like, so we've met somewhere on a ship, we've met somewhere, somehow we've met before. And then we were interacting and talking, and it was just incredible. I mean, I really wish I could see her again. Well, actually, I did see her again. She showed up a couple years ago, but the second time she pulled me up in my astral body up onto her ship. And that was an incredible experience. I remember it very clearly. The ship had very tall ceilings. It had almost like this Greek Roman architecture with long columns that were attached to the walls. And then I was flying down this hallway at 100 miles an hour. It was this crazy speed. And then came to this door, which was like this huge ruby crystal that kind of opened up like this. Wow. And then it was like a smaller room, and then I could see these beings like her with blue skin and elongated heads, and they were wearing white bodysuit uniforms with this kind of triangle, upside down triangle on their chest. And then one of them walked up towards me, but her face was blurred, so I couldn't see who her face was. But then she gave me a hug, and I hugged her back, and I knew that it was Lele. I knew it was her. And so then I was popped back up in my body, and I was back in bed. So that was an amazing experience. But I was in my astral body, and when you're in the astral, it feels as physical as it is right now. That's the only difference. It's like walking from one door into another. The only difference is that you're weightless. So.
Penny says here, I've got so much to say. Penny says here, oh, I know you, Kevin. We met at MUFON conference, Las Vegas. You had a wonderful presentation. Hey, Penny. Susan's also here, and Thirsty, g'day. I've been so enamored with Kevin's story. I haven't acknowledged all the comments online. I'm sorry. Just like I think Penny, who said it? Lisha, somebody said. Shirley, we'll have to do part 2. But I'm chatting with them. I'm multitasking like a demon. I'm talking to them. I'm talking to you. I'm looking at the comments. I tell you what, live radio. And so the question I posed was, when can they physically show up more physically in a way that we understand in our physical senses? And they said this. They said, learn to monitor your thoughts and reduce your negative emotions. Learn telepathy. When this happens more collectively on your planet, more as a collective consciousness, when you become less warring, less angry, less judgmental, and a more telepathic and psychic society, then the contact physically will be known. Yeah. But it's basically a spiritual journey for us to have physical first contact, like not first contact, because like we've all had contact, like you've had contact, everyone I talk to on the show has had contact. So contact there, it's not first contact, but more as a collective understanding and more like that physical experience, like when they picked you up. So it's a journey for us to be able to meet.
It's a spiritual journey. It really is.
Journey.
And that's, and they started visiting me in those astral realms and in the lucid dream realms. I think one of the biggest reasons is because it's an easy place for them to visit, and it's safe in regards to like they're not going to affect me with if they have any bacteria on their body that could make me sick or kill me, or vice versa. I mean, just like War of the Worlds, how did the aliens die? They caught a cold. It's kind of the same thing. In the astral, it's a safe environment physically where people will not get hurt. But also, if you're able to develop those abilities to meet them in those, you're already like meeting them halfway, and they realize, oh, he's a more evolved being. We can meet him in this, and so we'll meet him in this stage because he can reach there. So you're meeting halfway. You're showing that you are a more conscious evolved person. So at least I'm speaking for myself. I started the first astral visit I had. Well, a lucid dream visit was in my condo in 2018, where my very first visit I had the Ponte visit, but I didn't see them physically. First time actually seeing one was it was a reptilian being, a sauroid, I think, a sauroid, which is like they're native here to Earth. But she met me in a lucid dream state, and she had very light green scales, blue scales along her neck. She had a slit for a mouth, kind of a very small snout, and she had amber eyes. But she had this really cool blue mohawk that was kind of like horsehair. And she had 3 fingers and 1 thumb, and she had claws that were about this long. And it was an incredible visitation from this reptilian. I've also had another recent visit from a reptilian. Just happened 2 weeks ago, and because I requested it. One night I said, before I went to bed, I made the conscious telepathic connection. I said, I would like to be visited tonight by either a mantis or a reptilian. I would love to meet you. They did not disappoint. And so it was around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I had woken up and I'm just in the process of getting back to sleep when all of a sudden somebody lands right on top of me, like the boom. And it was like their legs were like my arms were like on my side, and their legs kind of, went across my body, kind of locking my arms in place where I couldn't move. And then they tickled me under my armpits. And at this point, I still couldn't see them. I just felt them physically. I felt them physically land on me, and they tickled me under my armpits. And I'm very sensitive that way. I was not impressed. I was not happy about it. But then I was able to see them in this dreamlike state. And who is sitting on top of me? It's Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the reason for this is because all that week, I had just actually been introduced to Daryl Anka and Bashar, and I was binge watching all these videos of watching Bashar, and him talking, and I was really fascinated, and a lot of this stuff resonated with me. I really liked it. But here is Daryl Anka sitting on top of me. But then I looked a little closer. I looked at his eyes, and I saw he had reptilian eyes. I looked a little closer, and I could see he had sharp teeth. I realized he's a reptilian. He came to visit me, and he's shape-shifted to look like Bashar.
Yeah,
or
like
Daryl
Daryl.
Anka. Daryl like
Yeah.
Daryl, because that was in my mind very much that week.
He was
And
using your thoughts.
He's
It's
using my
amazing.
thoughts. Yeah, and
It's
so
amazing how they're inside our brain,
they
looking at
get inside
everything
your
we're
brain.
thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
when I woke up that morning, I gave out a very big thank you so much for visiting me. I really honor and appreciate you.
Did he
No, he didn't respond. No, but I know that he got I know that he got my response. No, he did.
so he came in request to your summoning. You summoned him,
Yes, he
like
did.
you asked him,
Yeah.
and he just gave you this sort of physical experience,
Yeah.
using the sensation of weight and a
Weight.
physical psychic experience. Because
And I couldn't move my arms. He actually had my arms I couldn't move my arms because
Pinned.
they're pinned because he had his legs across my body. So I
Wow.
physically felt him, like he was there, and he's just like staring at me. And then I could see the reptilian eyes, and I could see the sharp teeth just slightly. So it was amazing.
Yeah, that's cool. But he didn't sort of leave a message with you, like,
No, he
I'm going
didn't
to
say
leave
a
this.
word. Didn't say a
Didn't say a
word.
word.
No.
Lisha says here, what are you saying here, Jane? I had a dream once with a beautiful reptilian woman. She was like a purple bluish. She walked by and touched my arm. I was absolutely blown away by her feminine energy. Yeah, we often don't think about reptilians as having a feminine energy, do we? Because, I don't know, how do we think about reptiles? We think of them as cold and brutish. I think that's the narrative that's kind of gone around the internet, that reptilians are evil and warring, and exactly.
There are more species of reptilians. There's thousands of species of reptilians out there, more than humans. They are very evolved. Many are evolved and benevolent, high evolved beings, and of course there's ones who are not. But you have to judge the individual, not the race. And it's like how many skin colors, how many races of people are there on the planet? We'll multiply that by 1,000, and that's how many reptilians there are out there.
Right. When I was talking to Kevin before we went live, I shut my eyes. I don't know why I shut my eyes, but I got this vision. I was talking to him, and then I shut my eyes. I think I was in telepathic communication. And I saw this alligator-looking being sort of like crawling up towards me, but he didn't have an alligator face. He had a different sort of face. And in mid-sentence, I just stopped and went, "Oh, that's really interesting." And then I said to him, "You in contact with reptilians?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah." And so they showed,
yes, I am.
They showed themselves to me before you even told me you were in contact with them. But it's so interesting. I had Garnet Schulhauser on the show a few months ago, I don't know, a few weeks ago. And he said that he met a reptilian being, and he described this being as an alligator-looking being, but with a different head. And I thought, gee, I wonder what that looks like. Now I know, because I saw it in my vision with you this morning. Because when you think of reptilians, I think of them as what has been depicted on the internet. They're sort of standing up. upright, and yeah, I suppose just like you say, there's so many different shapes and sizes, and there's so many different looks to them. You can't just put them all in one basket and say they look
No.
like this. Yeah,
And some have tails and some don't.
right. Yeah, exactly.
I also had
Susan says, sorry.
I al-
Mhm.
yeah
Thanks
I
for talking
also
about benevolent reptilians.
go ahead. 2017 at first, all I saw was black. Then I felt pure love. Then I saw more of the body, the benevolent reptilians. Yeah, that's cool. The experience when in a lucid dream. That's amazing. Yeah.
So you also had, we've got 15 minutes to go. I wanted to talk about that orb that's been going around the internet.
Sure. Yeah.
You're just about to say I also had.
Oh, I was going to say I also had the experience of merging with an alpha draconian reptilian. So
Okay.
the ones who have wings,
Okay.
alpha draconians that people are very scared of. I telepathically merged with one at a UFO conference in 2019. It's a long story. We'll kind of shorten it.
That's for part 2, I think. Yeah, go on.
That'll be for part 2. We'll keep that for part 2. But the thing was, he allowed me when he merged with me. I was speaking. I was answering somebody at the conference, and my voice dropped. I couldn't control my voice, and my voice dropped like this. I'm talking like this, and I couldn't control it. But then I also felt my back expand. I felt these two heavy things between my shoulder blades. My back felt electrified. He allowed me to physically feel what it's like to be him when he and I were speaking together to this person. An incredible experience, just unbelievable. So
Wow.
yeah, we'll talk about that in more detail later another time. But the orb, let's talk about the orb that landed, and people are wondering what this silver orb is.
So in my little group on Messenger, I said, what do you think about this gem? And Lisha posted that, this is what the Ponti have been saying about it. Let me share this. Where'd it go? View this chat on StreamYard. Oh, there we go. This is the orb. So it's all over the internet. I don't know what they're calling it. I think they're calling it the Booger orb because it was in South America. Where is it? There's another post. But yeah, what did the Ponti say to you about it? Here it is here.
Yeah, the Ponti commented saying that those little things on it are almost like they're sensors for measurement. They measure things. Could be like temperature or like some kind of sensors for taking measurements. But I don't think that orb is human or man-made. They also did a scan of it, and there's no mechanics inside it. It looks almost organic. So
they confirmed. I'm trying to look for the post that Lisha posted in our group because she took a screenshot of it, but I can't find it. They confirmed that it is a ET device. It is an ET device, but I think that the post that Lisha posted. Hi, Sue. What are they saying? I asked the crew about the sphere. They say that it's a basic aerial model drone that uses frequency modulation to achieve anti-gravity capabilities. It's programmed to gather exploratory data. The writing translates loosely as aerial exploratory assistance plus the model. So it's sort of like the model. But I think that one of the posts that Lisha put out, they said it's an older model. Yeah, so I guess it's come down. So in your communication with the Ponti, what have they said to you about it?
Well, that's pretty much, that's what they've said on that particular feed regarding that that drone.
Why did it come down? Why did it come down so that
I don't know.
We could pick it up?
Maybe it was meant to come down for us to examine it.
Patrick says, "Hey, brother Kevin."
Hey, how's it going, Patrick? Mr. Giggy.
Yeah, it is fascinating. So the videos on YouTube, or I was actually looking at them on Instagram, I think. was this woman videoing it flying, and she's speaking in Spanish about it, and then she actually videos it long enough to see it drop. And then there's another video connected to this video where they're going through some bush, and then they pick it up. And then there's other videos of a woman pouring water over it, and then the symbols come up more. And then there's more videos of the guy in South America that released the ET bodies. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I know
Talking
which
about
ET
it.
bodies you talk about. Yeah,
He's talking about it in Spanish. So so it's out there, but it's not theirs. It's not their orb. It's or drone. It's not the Ponte, but they know
No.
about it, right?
Apparently they know about it. We're able to make a comment about it. Yeah.
Did they say whose it is?
No, they didn't. No, I'll have to read. I'll have to read if there's anything more that they said on Twitter, or maybe somebody else can go. We all, while they're watching this, can jump on their phone and pull it up. Who follows the Sandia, and see if there's anything else that they said.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter now. I haven't seen anything. So the basically Tilcombe would like more people to get to know the Ponte, and they're asking that they follow the Twitter page. They were wanting 1 million people to, because it's all about critical mass, isn't it? Really, I mean, ET will become more of a physical presence on planet Earth once we have an understanding that we're not alone in the universe, and that there are benevolent ETs that are actually here to help us. And by doing that, we're doing it through podcasts and through music and through books and through movies.
Yeah.
They're doing it. They're getting the message out. But the way that they're doing it is through the Twitter page. And you can talk directly through Sue, because Sue is the telepath on the Twitter page. You can ask them questions directly and speak to them on the Twitter page. And so they want that. They want humanity to speak to them through this medium, through the.
They said, if you have a question, ask a question. Come onto the Twitter page and ask us a question.
The X page, now called X, and the page is called @Sandia Wisdom. Sandia the ET is the page. So for people who want to speak to some ETs here on Earth, that's how you can do it, directly through the X Twitter page. The Twitter page.
You can also go to their website, which is officialfirstcontact.com, and they have archived all 7 or 8 years of the Twitter messages on there. And you can do searches by keywords as well. So if you're looking up certain topics, you can do that to search of different things that they've talked about over the last 7 years. It's a great place for source of information. So I strongly recommend officialfirstcontact.com. Go to the Twitter archives if you're looking for information about things that they've talked about. So there you go.
Lisha says here that she saw a Ponte drone once when I was on my way to the dentist. It wasn't round, more like an angular vase shape. Really? How did you know it was a Ponte drone? Did you ask them, Lisha? Question. Woo Rider says here, what is the difference between interdimensional aliens and aliens that live in our reality? Great question.
Well,
got 7 minutes to go.
I know the Ponte can kind of do both, where they are physical beings, but they can also transition into interdimensional energy beings. Susie Hansen, from you probably know who she is. She talks a lot about she talks a lot about the Greys, who she's interacted with, where she's seen them transform from physical into dimensional energy, where they can do both, where they can just change their form, and she's done the same thing, where she's left her body into interdimensional form to interact with them. So they can just like do it on command. For me, I've learned how to astral travel. That started about 3 years ago, and then through practice, I've been able to do it a lot more easily. And if I get myself into a meditative state, into a lower alpha theta state, I can then actually jump out of my body and get into my astral body. I can do it. So
you can do that. That's what I was doing yesterday. I was attempting to do it. So I astral travel all the time, as we all do. We're all astral traveling at night, and in our spiritual, astral, etheric bodies, depending on where we're going and what we're doing at night. But to do it deliberately, like I'm going to pop out of my body right now, I haven't mastered that yet. And I was telling Kevin that I was listening to a guy on YouTube who has a YouTube show called Area 52, and I can't remember his name. Like many shows, he just puts up the name of the show and he doesn't put his name up. But anyway, and he was talking about learning. He actually went to the Monroe Institute to learn how to astral travel. But like Preston Dennett, have you been on Preston and Dolly's show on the network?
No, I have not.
Oh, I'll have to introduce you. So like Preston and Dolly know how to do this. There's this continuity of consciousness in the body, out of the body, same consciousness, same memory, same. It's not like I forget and I remember, because when we wake up in the morning, we rarely remember what we've been doing in our dreams or out of body. But with Preston, he has this continuity of consciousness, which a lot of the ETs have. They were talking about on the show how an alien interview, that this alien was saying that he's millions and millions of years old because he doesn't identify with the body, he identifies as the soul.
The soul.
Yeah, having led, and and then the body is just a container. And so there's this continuity of consciousness, whether he's in the body or out of the body, it's all the same consciousness to him. There's not this forgetfulness. And it's so fascinating. We've got such a long way to go. Like the reptilians have such a grasp on our mental acuity. Like we think we're in our own heads all alone, that we think our own thoughts, but we are not. We have no control. Like we are such babies in the water, really, when it comes to mental abilities. Yeah. We're running out of time. We've got 4 minutes left, darling one. Any message you'd like to leave with people before we finish?
Yeah. So just to recap for the Ponte, please follow them on Twitter at Sandia Wisdom. Visit them on their website at officialfirstcontact.com. And if you're interested in my music, you go to my website, which is pyramidsonmars.com. And there's links to my music on Bandcamp. You can follow me as well on Twitter. And actually follow me more like on Facebook, either Kevin Estrella or Pyramids on Mars. That's easy to find. But that's where you'll find me. Also, my radio show is on the Artist First Network. So artistfirst.com, all those websites.
And I'll have all the links on my page. I make a page for all my guests that come on the show, where you can read more about them, see their books, see all the different videos I've had with them on the show, and you can see all the links there. So it's in the one link that's under all the shows. And Lisha says, yeah, I know, Lisha, I'm determined to get this. I would love to be able to consciously astral travel. Yeah, I was just going to say maybe one day. Absolutely. One day it's going to happen real soon. I'm sure it was going to happen yesterday. But I fall asleep, like you're in that sleep state, and like, oh, I can feel it. You can feel the buzzing, and then bang, you're asleep, and then you wake up, and it's like no memory. I have that continuity of like in or out of the body.
There's different ways of doing it. The next time I'm on the show, I'll tell people about my first experiences and how to do it, and what the process is to get yourself to that level. Or at least what it worked for me. There's many different ways of doing it.
And as Preston said when we had an extensive discussion about his astral adventures, he said, we're not projecting out of the body. We're actually projecting into the body. Like we call it astral. I'm going to learn how to astral travel. I'm going to project out of the body. Actually, we're projecting into the body. And that remembrance, what we're doing is we're allowing ourselves to remember who we are when we are out of the body. Like it's just that remembrance. It's that veil of forgetfulness that we're thinning with our consciousness, with our meditation and our focus. That's what it's all about. Oh, yes, you're practicing it too, Penny. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Susan. Thanks so much. Awesome to meet you, Kevin. Can't wait for another chat. Unfortunately, we're booked out until September, October now, probably October. So it won't be until October because there's just so many people wanting to come on the show. I've got a slew of emails that I haven't answered. People reach out to me all the time. Lots of healers reach out to me, because they want to promote their healing work. They do it through going on podcast shows. And it's been such a joy and a pleasure. We've run out of time. Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you for all the
Karen.
work that you're doing.
Thank you. It was great.
It's been great to meet you. I didn't know much about Kevin. I wasn't going to do a lot of research. I thought I'll find out when I chat to him on the show, and it's been just beautiful. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. And thanks. Yes, the joy. Everyone's sending you love. Joy. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you.
Who have I got coming up next week? I don't know. I think I know who I've got coming up next week. I've run out of time. And another amazing healer. I'm just looking at my calendar. Lorianne Spangner. She's been on the show before. She's amazing. I just loved her, like soul sisters. First time I met her, I was like, oh, soul sister. She's coming up. It's been wonderful to be with you all. Love you all. Bye for now. See you soon.